Hello and welcome to ADA's webinar, Getting the Most Out of Your Exhibit. If you have difficulties hearing or viewing the webinar, please call the office at 717-724-0204. If you have a question for the speaker, please click the speech bubble under the participant tools on the left of your screen. Type the question into the chat box that appears, and then click send or press the enter key. Questions will be answered at the end of the webinar as time allows. If your question was not addressed, please feel free to email events@ada.us, and we will follow up with you personally. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Mark Fisher of Unbridled Solutions. For over 25 years, Mark has been formulating event marketing strategies in order to help support clients' product and service goals effectively. Currently, Mark is leading the trade show and sponsorship group at Unbridled Solutions and previously held the position of Industry Marketing Manager for the Life Sciences Group at Microsoft Corporation. He has had articles published in magazines and is also an established speaker at shows such as Healthcare Exhibition Association and the Corporate Event Marketing Association. He also teaches marketing for the Extended Studies program at San Diego State University. Please welcome Mark.
Thank you, Lori, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you, everybody, for attending today. I know everybody has a busy schedule, so I always appreciate it. So I'm going to dive right in to getting the most out of your exhibit. My first slide here is just kind of to go over what we're going to go over today. I'm going to do a little introduction, and then what I'm going to dive into is what you can do for your marketing efforts before a show starts, before and during and after a trade show, so you can kind of get the most out of what you're investing into shows. This is going to be kind of an event marketing 101 with an ADA flavor to it, so you can, I'll be referencing both, and that way you can kind of get a little marketing background and also tie it right into your ADA presence. And then we'll kind of talk about next steps. A lot of this information today can, be taken over a course that could take a semester. So I'm going to try to take away I want you to take away some items that you can go, wow, that was interesting, or I can use that. And again, we can dive in even deeper. And you'll see my email address throughout the presentation. And if you have a specific question about marketing or about your presence at ADA, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to assist you with that. Throughout the presentation, you'll see this little star that says tip in there, and that's just a little reference point to show you a little tip to kind of go, wow, that's kind of interesting, and maybe I can use that. So keep an eye out for that. So I'm going to dive right in. Introduction, who am I? Lori did an amazing job of introducing me. But the point I just wanted to make, too, and I'll talk about this later, is sometimes people meet me in an elevator or at a show, and they say, what do I do for a living? And I kind of want to play with people's emotions. And what I do is I say to them, have you ever been to an event, a trade show, et cetera, and you didn't get a lot out of it, it wasn't a wonderful experience, and then that person digests it and goes, yeah, I know. I've been to a really bad trade show or been to a bad show, and I know that the food was bad or whatever. And I go, well, I'm in the business to make it a wonderful experience and make it a great program that'll be memorable. And I kind of want you to take that also with you at the end of this presentation, because it's a great tool when you're working in a trade show booth or an event or people walk up to you, is kind of engage that person with emotion, bring them into the conversation so then they'll retain what you do for a living or what products you sell, et cetera. So that's kind of who I am. Why we're here today also is for the ADA International Trade Show. As you all know, that's coming up at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center, a great center on Oaks, Pennsylvania. January 28th to 30th. A lot of information is on the ada.us website. And up on the screen is a couple email addresses, ada@unbridledsolutions.com and mfisher@unbridledsolutions.com. You can reach me at either of those, whether you have a registration question or an exhibit question. Keep that in mind. You'll see it again at the end of the presentation. So thank you for being here today. I'm going to move on. So the one thing that I learned a long time ago when I worked for an organization, I got thrown a trade show on my desk and said, Mark, go ahead and plan this trade show. And we had a pretty good budget for it. And I was just starting new in the industry, and I didn't ask the question of why we're going to this show. And when I eventually did, they said, oh, we just do this every year, and et cetera. And then as I matured in the industry and kind of understood things, I said, you really need to set a goal and objective up front at the show, because if you don't do that, you don't know why you're doing it. If you're just doing it, I was told they do it every year, and that's why they do it. And so it's really important to kind of understand why you're there and set a goal and refer to it. So when I say goal and objectives, a lot of folks know what they are, but I'll just give some examples right here. Sometimes you go to a show, a trade show, an event, et cetera, and you go like, my goal is to increase sales, or my goal is to collect 100 hot leads, or just to get my company name out there. So these are some of the goals and objectives you commonly see. And some terms people use are return on investment, which is ROI, like you want to get the money back you invested. So let's say you invest $1,000 in a show, you want to get that back plus whatever. Return on objective would be similar to getting your name out there. So your objective is to get the name of your organization out there and to get that opt-in from people. And every event I say over again should have one of these. And what I always do when I work on an event is I write down what that goal and objective is. I put it in my folder or on my file desk or whatever it is. And whenever something comes up during the program, like a new addition or add things to the budget, I look back at that goal to see if I'm reaching that goal. Some people ask me, how do I make a clear goal and objective that's reasonable? And that's where I'm going to just go on to my next slide and talk about that. One term I learned a long time ago is to be smart with your goal and objective. And I said, yeah, I'm smart with it. What does that mean? It means to be specific. M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R is realistic, and T is for time limited. And so when you sit down and work out what your goal is for the ADA show or for other programs you do, you should really make a SMART goal and objective. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by this. Here's some real funny examples, I should say. The trade show is going to increase the sales of our fencing by 333% within 6 months. That's a possible goal there. It's specific. I mean, it's very specific. It's measurable. Let's say you have the sales tools to be able to measure that. It's time limited because it has 6 months in there, but knowing that industry and et cetera, it's not very achievable or realistic. So that kind of fails the test of SMART. As far as passing the test, let's do one example of that. The trade show is going to introduce me to 20 hot leads that will convert to 5 new sales of our fencing within 6 months. Specific, again, measurable if you have the systems to do that. Achievable, realistic, and time limited. So that one passes the test. And so you carry that goal with you, whatever you make it up to be. You bring it to ADA, you bring it to your other shows, and it's a handy thing to refer back to when you're trying to make decisions. Is this investment, is this piece of marketing I'm doing, this brochure, et cetera, going to help me reach that goal? So I always recommend people to sit down and work out their SMART goal. Some other things that are very relevant before you go to a show to understand, and I'm sure the folks on this call and in this particular industry know their audience very well, but to understand your audience, what people call demographics, so you know how to hit your target. So when you create collateral, or if you create a presentation or a handout or set up your booth, you want to make sure from the viewpoint of your audience that this is what they're looking for. Some people do surveys, some people do studies on what their audience likes, and that's how they come to their decisions on that. Or some people have been in the industry so long that they know what to do there. And then also understanding who your stakeholders are and who to cater to. What's interesting is we get so focused on the external customers that sometimes we forget the internal customers. So when you start putting together your considerations for your event, make sure you understand how it affects your internal. It may be yourself running your own company and you don't have employees or you don't have many people to cater to. But also when you put together your marketing plan for an event, consider your internal people. Make sure you're not doing travel over important holidays and personal times, and et cetera. And also make sure you understand what your internal customers want to get out of the program also. And this helps you throughout the program. And of course, this is the funny part is like what your budget is. Some people don't have a budget going into it, but mapping out an appropriate budget of how much you want to spend on this show based on your ROI or ROO is important to understand before you go into a show. It makes sense, but I just wanted to point it out. So then before you go to a show like ADA or other shows, you want to start thinking about what kind of promotions you want to do. And so I was just going to do a little definition of promotion on here so you can see kind of some commonalities. Promotions for your events are basically out there to reinforce your message. So you have a product or service, you want to do a promotion that promotes that. And we'll get into some promotions in a moment. You may want to introduce and maintain interest with people. So maybe you have existing customers going to be showing up. You want to continue the story and the dialogue and maintain that through the promotion. Of course, you want to add fun and excitement to a program. And then you also want to get your brand name out there. You know, it's interesting when people start seeing your name over and over and over again, they get kind of opted in, and it leads to great memories, which leads to loyalty to your organization. So I always think about when I go to a grocery store and I go to buy a can of soda, there's the generic store one, and then you've got the brand name, let's say like Coca-Cola or Sprite or something next to it. When you go, if they're both the same price, I usually opt for the brand on, you know, the Coke or the Sprite, because I'm kind of bought into that brand and loyalty. Now that's a really funny example, but think about your brand. You kind of want it to be in front of people. Everybody working your booth, everybody in the organization is representing that brand at all times. So if someone's in the booth yelling or eating or things like that at your show or making a bad impression, you're kind of making a brand impression from your whole organization. So keep that in mind when you work on promotions too, and how you word things and in your visuals to kind of keep them consistent, to get people used to your brand, your color palette, all those things that make up your company, because the more and more they see that, the more they get comfortable with it, the more they'll come back for more. Some basic promotions that some people do, you know, are invitations to parties or events. You know, they give away shirts and pens, and they may do a press release with the media, which is a whole other avenue of promotion, or a contest or a raffle. Those are some basic things you may have heard before for promotions. But I want to talk a little bit more about advanced promotions that you could use at various trade shows. And I think sometimes it's more than a simple pen you're handing out. You want to change the way people see you and perceive you. Are you a fun company? Are you a productive company? Are you a helpful company? And successful promotions lead into that opt-in and loyalty. Some promotions that are above handing out pens to get people excited before a show include digital marketing, which is your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter. There is and I'll have a slide on this, but there's a hashtag for the event that I'll speak to in a moment. So you want to keep that in mind if you're going to be Twittering, et cetera. But it's hashtag AETA, AETA, and then lowercase show. AETA show is the hashtag. And so you can start hashtagging before the show. You can start putting stuff on your Facebook and et cetera beforehand to kind of build that excitement ahead of time about your presence at the particular show. And then one thing that we all forget about is today you're watching a very lovely PowerPoint presentation, which is not overly exciting. I talked about emotions before, and when you play with people's emotions and senses other than the visual, like you're looking at a PowerPoint right now, it becomes more memorable. I attended a session one time, and it sounds a little ridiculous, but I walked into a session and they misted people with water when they walked in, and they shot off confetti cannons, and the room smelled of a certain, you know, flower scent. And you know what? I still remember that particular session from this day because it played with my other senses, and that's why some people like to hand out chocolate in their booth, or some people like to have a certain scent with their program, or et cetera. Believe it or not, it sounds kind of corny, but it adds that layer of emotion and excitement to a program. So don't forget there's other senses out there as you think about your promotions for AETA or other shows. Digital marketing, I talked about this in a moment, but don't forget about, you know, updating your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, hashtag AETA show, as we talked about before. There's also an AETA toolkit out there. I show a small image here. These images are available to you at no charge. And feel free to email me to access that toolkit. During your registration for your exhibitor kit, you also can see a link to that. But don't forget to, you know, take advantage of some of these tools out there as you promote your program before it starts. So, from there. And now we're going to go at show. So you've got all this work done beforehand. You know, you ordered what you wanted for your AETA booth. You ordered, you know, your signage, your pull-up banners, your materials you're going to show, your product, and et cetera. Just as a reference, There are some ADA opportunities out there, and I'll get into the exhibitor kit in a moment, but you'll be able to, have an ad in the show directory on site, which is wonderful, a web ad, which affects before, during, and after. There's a new product showcase that you're welcome to participate in to get people excited. That new product showcase is set up right when people walk in the front doors of the expo center, so they'll get a first glance at your product before they even walk into the large trade show. So that's a great way to get people's attention. There's different raffles going on, a couple of really fun events to network at that can be sponsored, tote bag logos, and there's so much more. So if you don't see those during registration, feel free to email me, and we'll make sure you get that information sent to you again. So keep that in mind as you go along here. So here we go. We're at the show. You've got yourself, maybe your entire staff, or maybe you have a staff of 3-4 people showing up to the show or more. You want to not forget to keep your staff engaged and also appropriate. So you want to make them excited, and how can you do that? Well, they may be overly excited because they have a vested interest in the company and they want you to do things successfully. So there you go. That's a great employee to have, a person to help you with. That elevator pitch, at the beginning of this presentation, I talked to you about how to introduce yourself and engage emotion. I think it's super important that everybody working your booth has an elevator pitch. So somebody walks by your booth, they only have a few seconds to catch their attention. If they're not specifically looking for your product, they're going to walk right by and maybe not even find out about the wonderful things that you do there at ADA that you're trying to promote. So if your person can be standing there, hands to side, not in their pockets, not eating, doing all the wonderful trade show rules, and engage people in a fun and flavorful way. I'll give you an example. When I was working a booth where I was selling, exhibit and event services, somebody walked by my booth, and I'm not a great salesperson, but I had an elevator pitch where I said, if you can go anywhere in the world for a meeting or trade show, where would you want to go? And the person would stop and they go like, oh, I'd go to Paris. And I'd go, oh, great. And do you need help within your meeting? So it was a really nice emotional connection that you can go ahead, and it's not a hard sell, and it would just allow you to flow into your product and services. Even if you just, take the business card and go, it's a really nice way versus just standing there or hoping that they ask you a question, or if you just ask them, are you interested in buying my product? So work on that and some training. You could also, if you have employees working your booth, you may do some kind of promotion, like, whoever gets the most cards today or leads, I have an Amex gift card for you, a Visa gift card, et cetera. So sometimes that helps too. And then again, with your booth itself, don't forget about doing some relevant, giveaways, things that people would appreciate, people would use, some fun things. I know a lot of people just walk around the show and grab things, but sometimes if you make sure your logo's on there, your URL, make sure it has some kind of call to action, that would be wonderful for them. And what I mean call to action is maybe there's something they need to do, like go to a website and enter to win a prize, or go to the website, or at least do that. Media PR, we talked about a little bit of social media too. But if your company is into letting local magazines or international magazines or whatever it is to know about your presence, don't forget about doing a short press release. And doing press releases is a whole other avenue of education. But there's websites like PR Newswire and other things that actually help you find the right magazines to go to and help you structure a press release, or even just an announcement you're going to be at an event, or even some local TV or radio spots if it gets that far. And then don't forget to measure your success and survey. Take notes, survey your staff as far as what was successful for you. And maybe the people that walk by your booth follow up with a survey and say, what did you like about our presence? Can we help you with any services in the future? Don't forget that it's a great opportunity to grab that attention. This is one thing, too, that I just wanted to point out. Sometimes your booth itself has a lot going on because you have different merchandising, et cetera, at the ADA show. But one thing when people walk by is they want to see what you do and what your company does. So having a short, clear mission statement or benefit statement that clearly states what your company does, just clearly out there either on a table sign or a pull-up banner or something of that respect is wonderful, because these people are walking by. You just have a few moments to catch their attention go ahead and create that short tagline and make sure it's clear visually. It's at eye level. What happens when you have a table in front of you or some things, all that text down below gets cut off. So just always keep it up and 3/4 high of that banner that you have up on the top. Just make sure you have that engaging staff. Focus is key, making sure things are clearly stated if you've got text as far as what kind of message you're trying to get across. And people love images too. So if you have images of people riding horses, or if you have different maps, for some reason the American Marketing Association says the number one thing that people focus on or love to see in trade shows, graphics, are maps. And I go, really? And so it's kind of interesting to see when you put up a map of the region or the world, people always try to look and see where they've been or where they want to go and things like that. So I found that was an interesting statistic. And then just make sure, this is kind of a marketing 101 thing. If you create a brochure or a text or just talk to people, make sure you're focusing on the customer, not your company so much, and the benefits to the customer. If you look at some of your brochures you may have and read through there, the first thing I do as a marketer is I circle all the things that say you, meaning the customer, and the we comments that mean my company, ABC company. And the yous should totally outweigh, should be over 50% of those yous in that statement. Because when you have a document that talks about me, we as a company, people just have a tendency to tune out because they're not seeing the benefits to them. So if you're creating marketing materials, I always recommend to focus on the customer and play low on the we and tie it all together, if that makes sense. And then don't forget, at the show, this is a great time to post pictures of the activity at your booth on Facebook and Twitter and your LinkedIn stuff, and keep that going. Hashtag ADA show. That would be wonderful too. So now you've had your show. You've collected your leads. You've had a lot of excitement. And the one thing before you ride off into the sunset is to make sure that you have a plan in place to follow up on all those great people you met. So before you even go to the show, or even at the show, if you had a chance, figure out how you're going to follow up with these folks. Is it going to be, you have a short time window if you have an excited person there. So go ahead and follow up with them within a short time frame after the program, whether it's a phone call, a postcard, whatever that is, email, follow up with them as close as possible. This is a great opportunity, the reason you're at the trade show. From a personal standpoint, make sure you're notifying them of the next show you're going to be at, because you want them to go ahead and see your brand and continue to see your brand and see that you're a valid brand and a stable brand. So keep that going. And then I've noted in there, make sure you also lock in the next ADA shows so that you have that on your calendar to make sure that you're consistently showing yourself with that particular brand. And that's at January 2018 dates in there also. That's great. And then if you have something exciting that really happened to you at the show that you want to do a press release or a media release, that's an option too. And then just make those notes for your next show, because what, I just want to make sure you don't forget all those wonderful things that you learned at the show, and you go on to your next show, your next sales meeting, and all these different things, and you may forget. So don't forget that. I'm going to push this out there again because this really doesn't cost you much money at all to just make sure you're engaging with social media and push it out there after the show of all the great things that happen and the great results and some of the people you met and things like that. So I want you to all keep that in mind. So let me talk about next steps. So I covered a lot of information there on this particular presentation as far as marketing and how you can improve your presence, not only at ADA, but at other shows. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ADA logistics right now. So from a logistics standpoint of view, if you have not gotten already an email with your exhibitor kit, two things you should look out for. One is to go into your spam folder, and in that spam folder, you should see an email from people, if you haven't gotten it, from ada@unbridledsolutions.com. And that particular email, whether you got it through your normal route or in your spam, or you can email me if you're missing it, that particular email will show you your booth number, your booth size, and also it'll link you to the services that you may or may not need for your show presence. So what I mean by services is, hey, you may need carpeting for your booth, you may need electrical, you may need hardwired internet, things like that, and freight information. So it's in that particular kit. This year, to help save exhibitors dollars, we have different routes for these items, just so you know. Excuse me. We have a GES, who you all may be very familiar with. They're the decorator who will be on site. And GES is who you would order carpeting from if you need to order a certain type of shelf that you can't get except a piece of furniture. Also your freight information. As part of your package that you order, you get a table. You can choose between different sizes of those tables on the form. You also get 2 chairs and a wastebasket and kind of your draped area. The show colors this year are black and kind of a red burgundy kind of color. But that GES will help you with those items. This year, we're ordering power through the ADA organization. We're taking advantage of our buying opportunity for power and passing on the savings to you. So you'll see a separate form in this kit for power. And then if you need any like hardwired internet, you have to go through the Expo Center. There is Wi-Fi in the facility already, but hardwires would need to be ordered. So just keep that in mind. If you didn't get the kit, look in your spam, or if you haven't gotten in either respect, please feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to make sure that gets out to you so you're all set for the end of January for the program. My contact information is on the screen, and then there is general information, again, on the ADA website if you want to see who else is exhibiting or find out a little bit more about the organization if you're not a member right now. So before we end this particular presentation, I'm going to go to the queue and see if there is any questions here for the seminar today. If you do have any questions, feel free to pop it into that little bubble box there. I do have one question here. When is move in and move out of the particular show? So depending on how much you have to set up, we have a lot of options for you. Some of the larger exhibitors, we open up move in on Wednesday, January 25th, right after noon time till about 6 p.m. There's move in times on Thursday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that's January 26th. And then on Friday, January 27th, we ask that everybody get installed that day by 6 p.m. to make sure you're ready to go. And then the show itself, I'll mention this too, is Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Monday, January 30th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we ask that all exhibitors are moved out, packed up, and happy campers by in the evening of January 30th, Monday, which is starting at 4 p.m. move out. Everything needs to be out of that hall by midnight of that particular day. So to have that question, hopefully that answered that. New product table question. So if you have a interest in the new product table that's out in the hallway, you'll go ahead when you see your exhibitor kit. You'll go through and it'll show your booth number and it'll show you the information on exhibiting. But also you'll see an option to order a new product table there. So you'll see that in that exhibitor kit, along with other promotions like advertising and et cetera. Those are a couple questions I have. Let me check the queue here. Okay, well, I encourage you all to go ahead and email us any additional questions. And then also, I appreciate your time today. I know it's valuable, taking a half an hour out of your life, and I appreciate you being there. And hopefully you found something of value that will help you improve your presence at ADA and other shows ahead. And I'll turn it back to Lori.
Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to present this webinar to us and for sharing your expertise. As Mark said, please feel free to email us at events@ada.us with any questions you may have concerning this webinar or any questions about the upcoming trade show. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.